Ever since I was younger, I had a fascination with mysteries. The obscure, the unsolved, and the unknowable. From interesting to disturbing, harmless to dangerous. Join me as I uncover rabbit holes and track down information on a plethora of topics you may know little about. This is Atlas Investigates. Damn, seems kinda tight, I ain't gonna lie. Oh, I probably should have gotten the next size up. Hello, everyone. I'm Atlas, and this is part 2 of the Chris Chan Iceberg. Welcome back. Once again, just to get the explanation out of the way, an iceberg chart is a collection of information on a specific topic, ranked based on how obscure and/or disturbing the facts are. And Chris Chan is a person on the internet that many people are familiar with or have at least heard of. He holds the title of the most documented person on the internet because of the sheer amount of facts that are available regarding his exceedingly strange life. This iceberg was created by the user Piccadilly on icebergcharts.com and was posted on the 8th of February 2022. This is part 2 of the chronologically organized iceberg, and I encourage you to go to my channel and watch the first part if you haven't already. If you've already done that, then let's begin. Section 2, Early Adult, 2000 to 2007. PVCC era. If you'll notice, this is part 1 of layer 2, and that's because the script is already like 9 pages long, and there's still plenty of information to go in layer 2, so we're just going to split this layer into like 2 parts, and then be done with it, and then move on to the next one. So I can get this out a little quicker than I would have otherwise. PVCC. This stands for Piedmont Virginia Community College. After high school, Chris attended this college in Ruckersville while obtaining an associate's degree, a degree that only requires 2 years of classes. Originally, he went looking to get a degree in marketing, but Bob changed that to a computer-aided drafting and design degree. For various reasons, it would take Chris 5 years to complete this 2-year program. Quick's Sonichu site. This is a website that Chris made in October of 2000, which was meant to showcase Chris's OC, as well as several of the drawings and expanded lore he was creating. This was around the time that he created Son-CHU, Sonichu's first evolutionary form, Rosechu, the female variant of Sonichu, and Rosechu's first evolutionary form. He would also post a few short written excerpts, as well as some of his poetry. Songs for Kellie. This is a CD made by Chris for his high school gal pal Kellie Andes, who was the only one of his circle of friends that he kept in touch with for a time after graduation. He gave the CD to her as a Christmas gift in the year 2000, though we don't have any indication of what songs were on it. He would stop talking to Kellie sometime in 2001, after his mother informed him that she probably had a boyfriend and wouldn't be interested in Chris. However, Chris has also stated that he came to this realization himself, or that he just forgot to call her one day, broke the habit, and didn't call her again after that. Sonichu Medallion. This is a medallion that Chris first created in the winter of 2000. It's a small representation of Sonichu's head that he wears around a chain necklace, and is one of the most identifiable icons of Chris. If you've ever seen a photo of him, he's probably wearing the medallion in it. It has had several incarnations over the years, as it has sometimes been stolen or destroyed, but he always makes a new one to replace it. Wendy's. Chris worked at Wendy's from August to either September or October of 2001. His first job ever, he did basic tasks like mopping the floors, cleaning trays, and assisting customers. However, it seems that he was lazy at his job, taking frequent breaks and not changing out of his uniform after getting it dirty. He was fired from the job in September or October, though the reason is unclear. One possible reason is that he performed a Donald Duck impression that caused a child to cry. Another is that he drew a picture of an older female co-worker as a Pokemon. In all likelihood, the reason for his termination was probably a combination of these factors and his general poor work ethic. Love quest. Chris officially started his love quest shortly after his 21st birthday. The inciting incident was apparently him getting kicked out of an English class by a male, and possibly gay, professor after Chris either made a racist remark or bothered other students. As he cried in the hall, he realized that there was no one around to comfort him, and then decided that he needed a girlfriend. While Chris stated that the love quest was about finding companionship, it later became evident that what Chris really wanted was to lose his virginity, something he became increasingly sensitive and resentful about during this time. Attraction sign. Because of the infinitely high boyfriend factor, a phrase Chris used to describe the possibility that any girl he talked to already had a boyfriend, Chris developed noviophobia. This is a made-up phobia, another quickism, that he defines as being the fear of talking to a woman who might reject him because they already have a boyfriend. To counter this and his already poor social skills, Chris decided that he needed women to approach him instead of the other way around. Thus, the attraction sign was born. This was a homemade sign that Chris would carry around and stand next to around the PVCC campus in order to advertise that he was single and ready to mingle. It read, 21 and single, white male, shy, smart, young at heart, computer skilled and humorous, a great thinker and go-getter, natural spokesperson, enjoys good parts of life, diplomatic, friendly, loves his family, peaceful, very creative. He's lonely. Seeking a cute 18 to 21 single female companion. 18 to 21 years of age, does not already have a boyfriend. Single, average to slender weight/body type. White. Lives in Charlottesville or Ruckersville area. Does not smoke or drink alcohol. Happy, positive personality, average/high income, drives a vehicle. If any men read this huge sign, mind your own business. And to all men with girlfriends, except marrieds and blacks, go jump off a cliff. Have a nice day, smiley face. Mary Lee Walsh. This was the PVCC Dean of Student Affairs at the time. During Christian's love quest, she would become his first obstacle. One day, while he was sitting around by his sign, she would confront him, taking the sign and, in some accounts, tearing it up in front of Chris. She would tell him that he wasn't allowed to advertise himself on campus, and that he wouldn't find a girlfriend by doing what he was doing. Chris made another sign, which was taken down. He was deeply affected by this confrontation, and thus saw Mary Lee Walsh as the bane of his existence, vilifying her in his mind as the reason why he could not find true love. He would take out his frustrations with her by making her a main antagonist in his Sonichu comics and presenting her as an evil witch. Saddest heart in the world. This is a poem Chris wrote in response to his conflict with Mary Lee Walsh and later posted on his Sonichu website. It notably features lines that he would later reuse in his hit song So Need a Cute Girl. Here's the poem in full. Lonesome and sad, lonesome and sad. The mastermind is very bad. In efforts of getting a boyfriend-free gal, that female dog took my only idea for a fall. Heartbroken, sad, and very lonely, I may never remove my virginity. And with Backstreet Boys' tune, I sing my lonesome croon. Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I so need a cute girl my age. Tell me why I ain't ever want to hear you say, I have a boyfriend. And so, deep in dreary thought, a girl was what I sought. A stitch in time will never remove my crying rhyme. I may be destined for loneliness forever. Fate is to blame. Whatever. I conclude this cry to say that as long as there are no matching girls, my happiness well runs dry. Sonichu and Rosechu, the genesis of the Lovehogs. Another creative writing attempt by Chris posted on his website. Here he talks about the origins of Sonichu and Rosechu, as well as how they met and fell in love. He establishes that the world that these characters inhabit is the same universe in which the Sonic the Hedgehog games take place, as well as the Pokemon games, somehow. Something of note is that the Pokemon trainer of the Raichu that transforms into the Rosechu is named Kel, which is undoubtedly short for Kellie, who was one of Chris's high school gal pals that we actually just talked about. This is not the last time Chris will bring people from his real life into his stories. The city of Station Square, a big city filled with everyday business and excitement. But on this fateful day in 2000, a monster rose from within the confines of the Master Emerald, combined with the negative power of the 7 Chaos Emeralds to destroy the city. Floods spewed from the sewers, water raged from the buildings, and everything was being ripped apart. Then, when the eye of the monster's storm was upon the city, it formed from the waters its perfect form. The monster came to be Perfect Chaos. At this time, only one hope was available to help, and his name was Sonic the Hedgehog. After his friends Tails, Knuckles, and Amy collected the de-energized emeralds, they brought them to Sonic. Chaos only used the negative power of the emeralds, so Sonic should have been able to use the positive energy to stop the monster. So with the emeralds, and the positive cheers from the survivors of the disaster, Sonic transformed into Super Sonic. With the power of the emeralds flowing through his body, he set out to destroy Perfect Chaos. Not far from the city, in a field of flowers, a boy Pikachu was playing around. When it heard the chaos going on in the city, it got curious, so it ran as fast as it could to see what was going on. When it got there, it ran onto the edge of a broken freeway ramp. There it watched as Super Sonic ran into the monster's torso and spiraled up and out its mouth. Needing to hit the monster in the same manner, Super Sonic rushed again at such a speed, and once again he ran in and came out the mouth. But this time he collided with the bystanding Pikachu, and the powers from the emeralds were being copied into the Pikachu, and they emitted a bright light that caused a large, long rainbow. Meanwhile, about a few miles from the city, at a shoreside of a lake, there was a wooden cottage occupied with a lovely Pokemon trainer. Her name was Kel, short for Kellie, with brown hair, average figure, 16 years of age, and a very cheerful personality. At this time, she was studying up on what the qualifications were for participating in the Johto League, and which strategies she and her Pokemon would use. Just outside the cottage, her girl Raichu was playing freely in the grass, when it heard a loud explosion from the collision of Super Sonic and Pikachu. Then it glanced up into the direction of Station Square, standing still. The emitted rainbow flew through the sky, the end of it landing on Raichu. Raichu and Pikachu both were shining brightly, as if they were going to evolve. Just then, Kel noticed Raichu's shining light through her window, so she put her book down and rushed outside with shock as she was wondering what was going on. Was Raichu evolving? Did it learn a new attack, or what? It was all so strange to her. Then Raichu and Pikachu started to grow and transform. Raichu transformed into a lovely pink hedgehog with a magenta dress, tank top, and boots, all with a blue stripe on each item. She also had a white accessory on her head, and her tail was as long as before, but it was white, and the bolt on the end was yellow. Kel was frightened when she said, "Raichu? Is that you? What happened?" Then, surprisingly, the Pokemon spoke. I don't know, Kel." Kel let out a gasp. The Pokemon then said, "I seem to have transformed into a new kind of Pokemon, and I'm not sure what to make of it." Then it turned around and gazed at Kel. Kellie was further shocked, but then she calmed down and said, Raichu, you are as beautiful as a rose. Then she had an idea. That's it. Since you are now a new type of Pokemon, how about we call you Rosechu? Rosechu replied, Wow, that's very nice of you to give me such a name. Thank you. So from now on, I will be known as Rosechu. Meanwhile, back at Station Square, the what was Pikachu came to, hearing the crowds cheer, Sonic! 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 Then he examined himself, finding that he was still yellow and had new spikes on its head and back, still had its Pika tail, and was wearing blue shoes with 2 brown stripes on each one. He then stood up and glanced at the situation. Supersonic was starting to get tired from zooming so fast into the monster. Then he spoke. Wow, what a mess. He then gasped, I'm no longer the Pikachu I used to be. The crowd was still cheering Sonic on. The Pokemon assessed the situation and realized that the monster had to be destroyed. So, with all his courage, he ran alongside the buildings towards the monster. When he got close enough, he waited for Supersonic to attack and escape. After Supersonic escaped from the monster, the Pokemon let out a mighty thunderbolt attack, thus shocking the monster into extinction and evaporation. The crowd believed that Sonic was the one who saved the day, but at the time no one knew that a Pokemon helped. Later on, in a distance, the Pokemon was running for a while, and then stopped at a cliffside. Then he pondered. I am now a Pokemon. I am no longer a Pikachu, but I have decided on a new name. Then he proudly stood and shouted to the world, Do not fear, world, for I am a new Pokemon, and my name is Sonichu. Yes, Sonichu, a proud Pokemon, free to help when needed and a real hero. After a few weeks had passed, Kellie got used to having a Rosechu instead of a Raichu. One day, Sonichu came upon the lakeside with hunger. He spotted a lit-up cottage. He thought, maybe if he asked nicely, he might get something for his stomach. So he knocked on the door and heard a girl say, I'll get it. The door opened, and a pink hedgehog Pokemon greeted Sonichu with surprise that she was not the only hedgehog Pokemon after all. She said to Sonichu, Hi, my name is Rosechu, and you are? Sonichu then introduced himself and explained his hunger. Rosechu replied, Sure, my master, Kellie, is a friendly trainer. I'm sure she will share her wonderful cooking with such a handsome Pokemon as yourself. Come in. Sonichu then entered the cottage. Kellie was cooking in the kitchen when Rosechu came in and said, Kellie, we have a guest tonight, a wild Pokemon. His name is Sonichu. Kellie turned around and gasped as she was looking at 2 hedgehog Pokemon of the same variety. Kellie replied, Wow, another hedgehog. It's very nice to meet you, Sonichu. Sonichu then said, Thank you. I was feeling a bit hungry, and I was wondering if I may join you all for dinner. Kellie happily replied, Sure thing. Just seat yourself at the table. Dinner will be ready shortly. Rosie, please sit with Sonichu until dinner is ready. So, Rosechu and Sonichu sat at the table and shared stories about their adventures in the wild, and with Kellie. After dinner, Sonichu became full and said, that was a good meal, thank you. Rosechu replied, We're just happy to oblige. Sonichu, would you like to walk along the lake with me? Sonichu replied, Sure, sounds like fun. Then Sonichu and Rosechu walked out together. Kellie looked out at them with a smile on her face, because she had hoped that Rosechu and Sonichu would be happy together. Outside, Sonichu and Rosechu were sitting on a big rock, gazing at the moon and its reflection in the lake, and they looked into each other's eyes lovingly. Then their lips puckered and they kissed each other. It was then that started the pair of loving hedgehogs. The end. Jesus Christ. Christian and the Hedgehog Boys. Oh my fucking god. This is an album released, quotations, by Chris in August of 2003. The band features Chris himself, Sonichu, Sonic the Hedgehog, Black Sonichu, and Shadow the Hedgehog. There are 8 tracks on the album, which consist of Chris singing over the original versions of various songs by various artists. Not instrumental versions, mind you, ones that have the original vocals attached. Chris's lyrics are sung with little sense of timing or melody, and usually relate to his real life or to Sonichu. The track list is as follows. So Need a Cute Girl, originally I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys.
And I see the ladies walking along one by one, and I never want to hear I have a boyfriend. Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I so need a cute girl my age. Tell me why I never want to hear you say I have a boyfriend. And
Sonichu Zip, originally Sonic Drive, by Hironobu Kageyama and Hideaki Takatori. AUTISM, originally Larger Than Life by the Backstreet Boys.
all of this time my name is unknown. AUTISM, what does it mean? Silence and friends unseen. A few brains as well, that is autism, and that makes us seem special to you.
BFFs, Best Friends Forever, originally If Only Tears Could Bring You Back by Midnight Suns.
Is it too late? Are you too busy to hang with this old friend that's been with you forever? What would I do? I feel very lonesome without you. You are my best friend. I can never bring you back to you. If only I could keep up with you.
La Cocina and La Casa de Casanova, originally La Copa de la Vida by Ricky Martin.
Estamos en la cocina, en la casa de Casanova. Estamos divertidos y bailamos con la música. Hay muchas chicas bonitas aquí en la casa. Casanova estamos.
Yellow is a Mellow Color, originally Macarena by Los Del Rio.
Yellow is a mellow color, yes it is, it's a mellow color. Sonichu sits beside me, hey mellow color. I'm feeling a sensation, living in lemonade, hey mellow color.
Feel So Lonesome, originally You Drive Me Crazy by Britney Spears.
Every girl who don't get me, they already have one. It's easy to see. I feel so lonesome, I can't think straight. To get a cute girl that lands on fate. Oh.
And Christian and the Hedgehog Boys theme, originally Open Your Heart by Sons of Angels.
Sipping along, rocking with joy, guitars, rocket features, and cheers, shadow, black Sonichu, the dark man can run to, Sonichu, Sonic, rocking in the atomic, and the leader who put the band together, singing with the song, his name is Weston Chandler.
Sonichu's Ode to Rosechu. Chris was really flexing his skills as a romantic writer in this year, because this is another poem he wrote and posted to his website. As you might be able to guess, it is meant to depict the romance between Sonichu and Rosechu. Here is the poem in full. Oh, Rosechu, you are as beautiful as a rose, though a zapbud is the flower that heals your woes. You shock me with your electrifying radiance. If I evolve into your knight, I will protect you with my lance. Speed makes no difference, though you are slower than I. You dance in a field with such grace and style. Sigh. I will run great distances for thee, for I can run very fast and never get a strained knee. Rosie, as often as birds tweet, will you be my lovely heart sweet? Chris plus Sarah's Life Shares. This is a comic book that Chris made for Sarah Hammer for her birthday in 2003. It details some of their life as friends, and it's where we get the majority of the information about their early childhood antics and some of Sarah's bullying of Chris. Naturally, it contains a lot of Sonichu art, and Chris actually spends a large portion of it talking about his own life instead of commenting on their memories together. Sarah's boyfriend at the time, Wes Isley, is mentioned. He will come back later as a villain in the Sonichu comics. The first Let's Player. In November, Chris films himself narrating a tour of his Animal Crossing village and sends it to Nintendo for their consideration. Some people believe that this makes Chris the first Let's Player, as documentarian Gino Samuel puts it, in the modern understanding of the term. Though this is somewhat contested. Nintendo actually took notice of this video and would highlight it in a short article in the Nintendo Power magazine in their May 2004 issue. Sonichu by Christian W. Chandler. Drawn on January 3, 2004, this is the first comic strip featuring Sonichu, Rosechu, and Black Sonichu all together with a semblance of a story. Hard Love Quest. Yet another poem, written and posted to Chris's website, this time on January 18th. As you might guess, it's about Chris's difficulties in finding a girlfriend. Here is the poem in full. Here you see a sad and lonesome Christian sea. Without girlfriend love, he feels an older age, as he is still stuck as a virgin with rage. He searched low and high to the end. The only delay is the fear of being already beaten by a boyfriend. Why do all the girls have to be already taken? A real shame. Boyfriends of all girls of possible matches for me are really lame. As I sit and sigh, I watch the girls go by, afraid of a lame interception. I sit out in the open without hesitation. Matching girl descriptions are free. I wish one girl would notice and approach me. It would be way past cool, per se, if I could get a girlfriend by Valentine's Day. But for now, as you see, I am a sad and lonesome sea. Sonichu's News Dash. This is a newsletter that Chris decided to publish on Quick's Sonichu site, and print copies of to hand out at PVCC. This was, of course, part of his scheme to find a boyfriend-free girl. In it, he would advertise himself as a single male and would publish news about Sonichu, poems that he had written, and a few short written pieces on various subjects. Something I think is interesting to note is that, in his personals ad, the way that Chris tells girls to find him is almost reminiscent of a video game quest hint. He says, to find Christian, he'll be wearing the Sonichu Medallion. Because of this, Mary Lee Walsh would issue Chris a cease and desist letter and ask to meet with him and Susan Hannafin, someone from the college's counseling office, so that they could discuss his behavior. Chris would try and avoid this through email correspondences, saying, quote, Mary, I've slept on it, and I have realized that note hanging is not the way to get attention, and I don't really want to meet with either you nor Susan, no offense. I'll tell you what, let's forget the meeting, and if you will allow my newsletter to stay in distribution, I will do all of the following. I will never hang notes on the wall again. I'll consider stopping my silent treatment on Susan. I'll consider knocking you and Susan up my scale of respect each by 2 points. 0 equals no respect. 10 equals respect. Please reply via email. Christian C. End quote. As you might expect, he was still forced to go to the meeting, which did not go well. Match.com profile. Possibly created sometime in 2004, Chris used Match.com as another avenue for meeting a sweetheart, though this never seems to have worked out. This, as well as his MySpace account, is where we can see a number of the most famous images of Chris, posted in order to make himself look appealing to others, namely women, though I'm sure they really only did the opposite. The 24th Wedding Anniversary Special. This is a video that Chris recorded in Animal Crossing for his parents' 24th wedding anniversary. In it, he goes into the history of his mother's and father's lives, the genesis of his parents' relationship, as well as his own birth and upbringing. The Red String of Fate. Inspired by an anime trope, Chris decided he would craft a paper heart with the words, "Pick me up and bring me to my owner," written on it. He would attach this heart to a long red string and toss it at girls so that they would approach him and start a conversation without him having to do any legwork. He tried this at the Fashion Square Mall and would get asked to leave by a mall security officer. When Chris recounted this event in a comic, he refers to the security guard as a jerk-op. This is a quickism that he will continue to use frequently in life. As a combination of the words jerk and cop, jerk-op refers to any officer of the law that stops Christian from doing whatever he wants, even if he is the one in the wrong and the officer is just doing their job. The Autism Papers. Due to Chris's behavior in his meeting with Mary Lee Walsh and Susan Hannafin, as well as his continued distribution of Sonichu's news dash, Chris would be forced to attend a hearing in which he was suspended from PVCC for 1 year, required to go to anger management classes, and get an evaluation from psychiatrists at the University of Virginia, which is where the Autism Papers come from. These are the psychiatrist's notes on his meeting with Christian. Here are some of the highlights. Mr. Chandler says that since finishing high school and starting at PVCC in the year 2000, he has had an increasing interest in a female companion. His attempts at this ultimately led to his suspension from college. His attempt took the form of a sign, which he placed next to himself while sitting in the lobby at Piedmont. The sign was a list of qualifications that a potential girlfriend would have. He said that he has been very frustrated by his inability to find a girlfriend, and he suffers from noviophobia. This refers to his frustration that females often tell him they already have a boyfriend. While he does have physical attraction towards females, his primary frustration is with his lack of companionship. He also carried his sign in the Fashion Square Mall. This unfortunately led to him being detained by the police and placed in handcuffs briefly, although he was not taken to jail. The patient's parents provided additional historical information and documentation as to the reasons for his suspension from PVCC. According to his parents, there have been a number of incidents which led to his suspension. They feel strongly that the suspension was unwarranted and did not take into account the patient's developmental limitations. One such occurrence was during an interaction with African American classmates. These young women were questioning the patient regarding his search for a girlfriend, at which point he told them they could not be his girlfriend because they were not white. This was perceived as racially insensitive, although from the patient's perspective, he was merely pointing out they did not meet his standard criteria for a female companion. The patient is a mildly overweight, white male wearing blue jeans and a shirt. He was also wearing a makeshift necklace that has a large plastic medallion in the shape of a Pokeman character's head. He also had a number of shrinky-dink decorations attached to his necklace. He had a large backpack that he carried with him and had a notebook containing a large number of drawings. He showed the examiner an extensive set of trading cards which he created for his video game characters. His speech was somewhat nasal with frequent awkward laughing during his sentences. His speech was fluent. His responses were appropriate to the questions posed to him. Overall, the volume of his speech was slightly elevated, although his tone was generally pleasant and almost jovial. His thought processes were linear and logical. He was somewhat concrete, especially regarding social interactions. He seemed to have good insight into his limitations. He did not express any delusional thought content. There was perhaps an obsessional quality to his preoccupation with finding a girlfriend, although he did not feel that this was a problem for him. He did not voice any perceptual disturbances and did not seem to be responding to internal stimuli. His impulse control appeared to be good during the interview, and his judgment was fair, although social judgment was likely somewhat limited. Mr. Chandler is a 22-year-old man with a history of developmental delays and autism. Despite these limitations, he seems to have been quite successful in maximizing his academic abilities. Despite his significant delays in language, he has over the years developed relatively effective communication skills. He is left, however, with a severe degree of social awkwardness, and seems to have a good insight into this. He is left feeling somewhat frustrated, as he has a strong desire for companionship, although his social limitations prevent him from being able to realize this in the way which he would like. The Christmas video. For Christmas in 2004, Chris filmed several videos. One is him summarizing the results of his love quest thus far and singing 2 of his songs for the camera, wishing for Santa to bring him a girlfriend for Christmas. The other is a home movie where he films his family's activities on Christmas morning and documents the house. He later goes back to his room and films himself lamenting the fact that Santa didn't bring him a girl, and that Sarah Hammer didn't come over to spend Christmas with the Chandlers, as she had the previous year, as well as complaining that she has a boyfriend.
'Twas Christmas Day, and all through the house, the creatures that were stirring were my family and me and our 2 cats. We entered Christmas Day in my bedroom of wonder and fun, because we have plenty of stuff around the house. On this day of Jesus' birth, and we wonder upon our wondrous Christmas tree, with a star that was made so delicately and creatively, with Pokemon hanging about, and a Christmas present that was supposed to be for the girlfriend that Santa brought, but unfortunately, she didn't show. And now we wander in on my family. Say hello, Father.
Yeah,
Making our Christmas movie.
I see you're wasting your chip.
Well, I'm gonna put it onto VHS anyway.
I see. Alright.
A smaller Christmas tree down here.
Yeah.
And our mother is asleep here in the dark area. Now the family is up and about. Especially my mother. Hello, Mother. Would you care to say something to the entire world?
Merry Christmas.
Yep. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's recording. So, here we are around the Christmas tree. We're gonna open presents.
Hooray, hooray.
Okay, well, first off, I have a card from my family. Here, Father, you read the card. To Mom.
I want to thank you all for your support and love throughout my fantastic love quest. Pooey. And if Santa doesn't bring me one, no Thomas. Like I asked him, then I'm going to need some support finding a boyfriend free. It'll come, Christian. Hope you all like my presents.
Okay.
Today I'm thinking of Christmas and remembering you all. Merry Christmas, Christian C.
Oh, that's my present for Sarah. Because, you know, she might come over.
Okay. Oh, she will.
Well, she did last year, remember? Oh, you found it, Mom. It's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here, oops, I'm sorry.
Don't break my head.
I'm sorry. Well, here, I got this for both of y'all. Here, Mom, you open this one since Father opened the car.
For all my music good.
Snow globe with me in it.
Merry Christmas, Robert.
It's also got Sonichu in it. Look, see, me on one side, Sonichu on the other.
That's cool.
I got it over at Walmart. The snow globe.
How about that?
And you
No
add
snow.
your picture. That's neat.
No.
And then we got another Autobot and a Decepticon.
Very
Hooray.
good. Yay, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas to y'all. I mean, I got y'all a snow
Careful
globe.
with that,
I like
glass
this.
in there.
I got y'all a snow globe, a video, and a little hamster. You like the hamster, Mommy?
Yeah.
Please.
It's broken.
It came that way. That was the last one they had.
Oh.
That's no problem, because, it can still stand.
Yeah.
It's not like it's gonna leak.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's neat. Merry Christmas.
Yep, Merry Christmas.
Now we can go back downstairs.
The Tale of the Crazy Pacer. This is a blog post written by a woman named Anna McLaren and posted on February 5th, 2005. It details a public sighting of Chris prowling the Fashion Square Mall and looking for a girlfriend. Anna and her co-workers would make contact with him and have a small chat. Anna and Chris would exchange emails and later, surprisingly, become friends. She will appear again later down the timeline. Here is a reading of the post. Okay, I've put this one off long enough. It's time for the story of all stories, the tale of the crazy pacer. Once upon a time, there was a guy who paced in front of Abercrombie & Fitch. He'd come and do it for hours on end, just walking back and forth. He was an okay-looking guy, not evil-looking like creepy molester dude, so he would pace for his allotted time, then leave. Sometimes as he paced, he would sing or shout. Nobody really could ever tell what he was saying. Oh yeah, and he always wore the same shirt, a nice little long-sleeved red and blue number that had a gold crest on the left side, and white collar and cuffs. Eventually, I guess he got bored of just pacing like that, because he started to bring his Game Boy SP with him. He had his headphones hooked up to it, so he would pace like that all the time. His peak hours were usually between 2 and 4, and he usually left by 5. Then, one day, he decided to start pacing on the PacSun side, so he started pacing in front of our store. I think the people at Abercrombie were relieved, because they were worried about the floor out front getting worn down. So this one day, on the day it started, it will be explained in short order. We were doing floor set, and Lin noticed that crazy pacer kept looking into PacSun as he paced, and she also noticed that he has a fair amount of junk in his trunk, if you know what I mean. And Star and I both noticed at the same time that his jeans were high water. And we all laughed at him. No, actually we were laughing with him. He just didn't know it, and he wasn't laughing along. And this day he was acting particularly crazy. He'd pace and pace, then stop and shout something at the wall, then keep pacing. And he also did some singing, even getting into the vibrato falsetto junks. It was hilarious. So anyways, someone, I can't remember who, suggested that the next time he looked in, we wave at him. Whoever suggested it should die, unless it was me, in which case I feel I have received enough punishment. Of course, he looked in, and we all waved at him. He looked kind of bewildered and sort of scared at first, but quickly caught on and waved back. Then he went back to his pacing, but he was looking into PacSun with greater frequency now. And any time anyone would make eye contact with him, he'd wave. I had to go get Star and iced tea from Sbarro's, so I left and waved at Pacer as I went out. When I came back, he was sitting cross-legged on the floor outside PacSun, and he took the initiative and waved at me first. I smiled and waved back, but the smile wasn't to be friendly. It was because I thought it was hilarious that he was sitting on the floor like that. Good thing he couldn't tell the difference. So we went on about our business, doing floor set and junks, and a little while later he came in. I was behind the counter, and Star was all, "Psst, Anna, he's coming in." I was kind of apprehensive about this. I mean, I had been doing floor set all day, and I didn't really feel up to dealing with another crazy. But he came right up to the counter that I was standing behind, and he looks right at me, all fidgety and twitchy, and he goes, "You look to be about 19 years old, right?" I busted out laughing, because he guessed it right. Star was laughing too, over from the sidelines where it was safe. That's exactly right, I affirmed. See, I know these things. I can just tell how old someone is, he said, kind of proud and still timid at the same time. Oh, I said. My name is Christian, he said, but you can call me Chris. I'm Christian W. Chandler. Oh, I said. Hi, Chris. So, he continued, do angels have names? I found out later that he meant to say, do angels like you have names? Poor guy was so nervous he didn't get it right. Probably, I said, but I don't know. Well, what's your name? He asked. Sorry, I don't go for pickup lines, I replied, kind of laughing. His face kind of fell, and I felt sorry for him, but he pressed on. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. I was just asking your name. So what is your name? Anna. Oh, that's a very pretty name. And I like your hair. It's a very pretty color. My eyes are two different colors. One of them is green and the other is blue. That's because I had pink eye a while back and one of them stayed that way. What color are your eyes? I was pretty grossed out by the pink eye story, but I told him anyway. Sometimes blue, sometimes green, and usually gray. Oh, that's neat. It's funny how that happens, isn't it? Yeah, I said. So do you want to, go get some ice cream when you get off work? He asked. No, I just ate, I said, and I'm pretty full. Plus, I'm getting off soon. Okay, well, Anna, is there any way I could, get your phone number, and maybe I could give you a call sometime? No. Ah, well, do you want my phone number then? You can call me on my cell phone. No thanks, I said. He wasn't to be deterred. So do you have a boyfriend, Anna? No, I said. Oh, he said, brightening, and started to say something else, but I cut in. I'm not looking for one, though, I said. His face fell again, but this time I felt no pity. All right, he said, fidgeting. Well, did you have access to the internet? I nodded. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. I nodded, and he went back to his spot, where he kept his 2 tote bags and his Sam's Club cup. I turned to Star, and she was all, dude, he's so weird. And I was like, I know. Make it stop. He started to come back in, and I was like, I have to go in the back and get a drink of water. But Star shook her head. I had to finish what I'd started. So, Christian came back and handed me a card with a crudely drawn Sonic the Hedgehog and some other yellow Sonic-looking creature on it, along with Christian's name, email address, and website. It was a homemade business card. That's my email address, and you can just email me sometime, okay? Okay, I said, not intending to email him at all. He left the store, packed up his things, and went. His work for the day was done. But the story does not end here, my friends. Oh no. He came back. Not the same day, but the day after that. This blog post is important because it was later pointed to as evidence that Chris's weird behavior wasn't an act or persona he put on for the internet in order to gain attention. It's just how he really acted in real life. While we're here, I'll also point out that it's true that Chris has heterochromia, as he claimed to Anna. One of his eyes is blue and the other is green. However, it's not as noticeable as he seems to believe it is, nor did it come about due to pink eye, as that's just not possible. Harvey Birdman video. Also in February, Adult Swim started a contest telling people to film their own commercial for the DVD release of the show Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. In true Chris fashion, he can't help but input his own personal life, and so goes on to mention Mary Lee Walsh and advertise his custom Pokemon cards. It's no wonder he didn't win.
Hello! I hired Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, to help me, Christian Weston Chandler, in my case against Mary Lee Walsh, who years ago shared my heart. And he has won the case for me, and you have won for me a Harvey Birdman 2-disc DVD box set, which comes out April 12, 2005. Features the lead scenes, live action open, casting Williams and Stephen Colburn's time Mary as Harvey Birdman, attorney at law. Harvey Birdman movie, Shaggy Buds and Businesses, and episode commentary. Let Harvey Birdman work for you. This has been Christian Chandler Sonichu production.
Sonichu Issue 0. At long last, Christian finished the first issue of his official Sonichu comic book. The contents of these sacred pages have been covered to death on this platform, so I won't be doing an in-depth reading or anything like that. However, this issue tells the story of Sonichu and Rosechu, and also features Chris himself as a sort of narrator figure. The comic also contains a sub-episode where Chris recounts how he had been thrown out of the mall while looking for a girlfriend, though in this version he uses the special powers in his Sonichu Medallion to transform into Chris Chan Sonichu, and he comes out on top, unlike in real life. Reimagining real-life events in his comic is something that Chris will continue to do. First date? In March of 2005, Chris's efforts in hanging around the mall seemed to pay off. A girl named Hannah, who worked at the Starbucks there, asked him out on a date. Chris was elated by this, but was later told by Anna McLaren and one of her friends that Hannah wasn't serious about dating him, and was only pulling a prank. Unable to believe this, Chris confronted Hannah and was told by her that this was in fact true. He let out a loud "No!" which caused him to be escorted out of the mall and banned once again. He would later recount this in another Sonichu sub-episode, Sonichu Issue 1. In this issue, Dr. Eggman teams up with Giovanni from the Pokemon universe to take down Sonic and Sonichu. I can't believe these are words coming out of my mouth. They use Sonichu's DNA to create a clone of him, but accidentally spill cherry cola in the machine, causing the clone to come out black instead of yellow. Thus, Black Sonichu is born. He kidnaps Rosechu, and Sonic and Sonichu have to work together to save her. Thereisbeautyin. This is the username of a student of the University of Virginia, who wrote a blog post on April 13th, 2005, observing Chris while he sat in the library of the college, drawing his comics. Here is an excerpt of the post that concerns Chris. So Sonichu returned to Alderman today. I am not sure what to make of him. He sits in his chair and draws his Sonichu comics, harmless, I assume. Yet, I feel like he knows he's different. He knows that the world rushing in front of him is not his own. Surrounded by the brightest students in America, whatever that means, he sits in his chair and draws. 23 years old. I'm not sure he even graduated high school. In front of him, texts of Plato, Falconer, God, and Kleist swirl. Does he have the capacity to understand these works? Whether he can or not, I am not sure. But there is something in his eyes that realizes that there is a level of understanding and thought that he is unable to partake in. As he slumps lower and lower in his chair, with each student he eyes reading or holding a book, he falls into himself, into the markers and colors on the page in front of him. Coffee idea. He seems intelligent enough to understand that he does not understand, and that is the hardest part of all. Sonichu Issue 2. Released on May 3rd, this issue of Sonichu takes the series in the direction it's most known for, being about Christian and his life more than its titular character. Sonichu was already glorified fanfiction, but it quickly became glorified fanfiction about real people. Here he writes about himself, Sarah Hammer, and her boyfriend at the time, Wes Isley. All of them have Sonichu powers, and Wes becomes the antagonist because Chris is jealous that he's with Sarah and he's not. Mary Lee Walsh also makes an appearance as a villain, as well as a character Chris calls Count Graduon, who is meant to symbolize the negative feelings that Chris has about graduating from high school. Anime Mid-Atlantic. This is one of the only times Chris ever went anywhere without his parents. He attended the Anime Mid-Atlantic Convention by himself in Richmond, Virginia. Of course, Chris being Chris, he decided to cosplay as himself, since he had inserted himself into the world of Sonichu and considered himself a character there. He handed out copies of Sonichu Issue 0 to people who, at the time, had absolutely no idea who he or Sonichu was. I have to wonder if any of these people still have their original copies and what they think of being handed them today. Crystal, Weston, Chandler. In sub-episodes 4 and 5, which dramatize a confrontation between Chris and more security officers at a McDonald's due to him soliciting women once again, the character of Crystal Weston Chandler makes an appearance. Despite her first name being the same one he wants to give to his supposed future daughter, this is actually meant to be Chris's twin sister, Jailed. Once again, Chris tries to set up an attraction sign at a local Target and was told he had to leave because he was loitering. He protested, saying that he wasn't loitering, he was looking for a boyfriend-free girl, showing that Chris has absolutely no idea what the word loitering actually means. Security got involved, and Chris tried to give some sort of speech as to why they were the bad guys and he was innocent. However, according to him, 5 security officers chased him down and tackled him. He was taken to the county jail but was released to his family shortly after. Still, he was charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct, which resulted in 2 court hearings. The charges were eventually dropped, though we all know this wasn't Chris's last run-in with the law. SON-CHU. This is the name of Chris's car. There have been several over the years, but at this time it was a 1994 Ford Escort station wagon. It has a vanity license plate that reads Sonichu. This car was a hand-me-down from his mother, as there was no way Chris was going to actually save up his own money to buy a vehicle. The reason I'm bringing this up now is that in July of 2005, Chris got into a fender bender when he rear-ended another car. He received a $30 fine for the incident and had to cover court costs. Sonichu Issue 4. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Chris finished Sonichu Issue 4 before Issue 3. This doesn't matter too much though, as it's just a collection of the sub-episodes, numbers 1 through 8, that had appeared in earlier issues and doesn't have anything to do with the main narrative, such as it is. However, Chris notes that his mom told him not to make any more stories about his real life, so he stops making sub-episodes after this point. SEGA forums discussion. In October, a discussion post appeared on the SEGA forums that centered around Sonichu. This is the first known online discussion about Chris and his life, but unfortunately the forum is no longer up on the internet, and no archive can be found, meaning that this whole discussion post is lost to time. And that does it for part 2 of the Chronological Chris Chan Iceberg. If you pulled up the original image of the iceberg in order to follow along, I'm sure you'll see that I actually added several points of interest myself. This is because I found the original to be a bit lacking in the first few tiers, so I took it upon myself to do a little extra research in order to bring you a more complete picture of this time in Chris's life. The main sources of information I used were the Quickie and Gino Samuel's documentary, both of which you can find links to in the description if you want to do some of your own research on Chris. I'll get working on part 3 of this series as soon as I can, in which we'll be going over Chris's first documented attempts to get with a woman he was interested in. If you want to know when that comes out, feel free to subscribe to the channel. As always, comment if you have something to say, and like the video if you liked it. I hope you come back here soon. Bye for now.